The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Coming to you cordless from glamorous Minneapolis. It's Wednesday night, April 8th, 2026. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 335. If you're keeping score at home, someday there'll be a test. Our guest tonight is LISA Broderick. And LISA is a published author, and she is basically like a professional corporate board person. She's the CEO. Let's put her on the screen here. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jim. Nice to see you.
I forgot to ask you, where are you right now?
Right, I am in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Okay. So let me read a few of your credits here. You are the managing director of Conversus Group.
Right.
You're on a whole bunch of both public, private, and nonprofit boards. You're the founder and executive director of Police to Peace. You're a member of the National Association of Corporate Directors and the Ford Business Council, and you've written 2 books, and this is the reason you're on. Your first book is called All the Time in the World. Your second book is called Permanence, Becoming the Person You Want to Be and Stay That Way. And so now here's the interesting thing, Lisa. You wrote these books in what I consider for your professional acumen and reputation in reverse order. So your new book, which just came out in February, Permanence, is basically it's all right. I'm gonna forgive me. I'm gonna summarize this as basically a self-improvement book or whatever.
Well, you know what? They're both self-improvement books.
Yeah,
I would call them research and science-backed theories for personal transformation.
Right. And so, but your first book is the book on time.
Yes,
and you have you're not just talking about self-improvement there. You're actually talking about some physical or physics-based concepts on time. And so, first of all, why did you decide to write that first?
Well, I think that as a tool for people to understand how they are in the world, I wanted to understand things that happened. Also, I had a death experience as a child, which was very common. When a child has a death experience or someone does, and there's sort of after effects. And an after effect that came out of that when I was 4 was that had a different sense of time. And so one of the things I could do, and I can do to this day, is I can slow down time with my mind. And I wanted to know why. And so an example of that is if I drop a wine glass, I can catch it by the stem. And so I can see it in space falling and catch it by the stem.
So forgive me here because I don't want to make this about me. I had a car accident in 1977. Also, I'm a classical musician by training. So the thing is, if you're a musician, you deal with what's called micro timing, and people throw these terms around all the time. Like if you're playing in a band, you're either playing before or after the beat and all that sort of stuff. Now, actually, that stuff can be measured. And you probably, unfortunately, I say this truly. Unfortunately, I've not read your book. I do a lot of reading to do this show, and actually, in this case, I regret it because I don't know what you wrote about.
And read it afterwards. Well, I'll tell you why.
I'm going to read it. So you probably came across this factoid. The average person can't tell the difference, can't discern time within less than a third of a second. But professional musicians usually are much finer to that because they have to be what's called micro timing in terms of rhythm. So I had this car accident, and it was very bad. And the police told me afterwards that the accident, I basically drove onto a bridge that was with glazed ice and had a head-on collision with another car. And they told me between the time I drove on the bridge and the time the cars hit was a half a second. In my mind, it was about a minute.
Mhm.
It was a classic thing that happens in movies, and I really, at the time, I thought I assumed I was going to die, and I thought, well, this is crazy. This is just like some really bad flick, you know. So I'm assuming you had roughly the same or a similar experience, let's say.
Many times. And so I wanted to know why. So think about this. During your emergency, here's an explanation for that. And that is the brain becomes extremely alert
Right.
and it takes in a lot more information than usual. It's like taking a million pictures in a second. It's like your camera's taking a million pictures in a short period. When we later think about it, we have to go through all the pictures and time seems to have slowed down. And I think I'm a musician as well. And that is what micro timing is. And that is you're taking way more, you've trained yourself to take way more pictures. Your brain takes way more pictures of what's happening and going through it, even in real time. You're able to see more because the brain is extremely alert at that time. I think that definitely explains emergencies. It's happened to me. And
I've
it's where time feels like it lasted longer than it really did.
Lisa, I saw nothing in any of your biographies about the fact that you're a musician. Do you sing, play? What do you do?
I used to, I still do some, play jazz, tenor, saxophone.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
terrific. And so you obviously then you can relate to this from a musical standpoint too.
32nd and 64th notes are incomprehensible, but we see them. We do.
Yeah.
And somehow our brains are extremely alert. Now, with musicians, we've trained our brains to do that. But I think in emergencies, not always, but sometimes the brain becomes extremely alert. What's so fascinating, and there are stories of this in my book, All the Time in the World, where in real time, real people experienced slowing down of time, and they were able to change what they did in real time, like your example of being a musician. So in one of the stories, a police chief who is a chief of police, and he knows someone who reports the facts, was in a gunfight, and he was able to actually move out of the way like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Now, if he's not really doing something with time, how could he move out of the way? The brain was so alert, and it actually slowed it down for him. He moved out of the way. And that's what's fascinating, how the brain so processes time, which is extremely variable. And basically, time is not what we think.
Let's put your book on the screen here. Here it is, All the Time in the World. I can only load up one book, and so this is the one I really want to talk to you about, even though
Sure.
we'll talk about the other one too.
Okay.
So, all right. So what actually prompted you to write the book?
So when I had the death experience as a child, my relationship to time seemed to change, and I seemed to be able to slow down time. It became what you might call a superpower. And
All right,
that's
hold on.
so running.
I gotta stop you now. In light of my accident,
Mhm.
I came to the same conclusion. I thought, well, all right, if my brain did this, maybe I can train myself to do it, and I have. But I have to say, in terms of objective time and space, I can only do it for like a few seconds. My brain conks out after that.
Well, that may be just going to the gym and doing reps. A death experience is way more prolonged than your accident.
Yeah.
Number one, and also there's been a lot of scientific reporting around what the anecdotal reports. Of course, we don't have any scientific reports of what happens when someone has a death experience and then doesn't die. But the anecdotal reports are very similar about time. That time does not pass normally, and people are very changed afterwards. They may be way more changed than an accident, which really only lasted a second.
Well, I have to ask you, just point blank, in all your studies and research, do you think time actually exists? I mean, there's a couple physicists a few years ago who won the Nobel Prize for basically proving that time exists. But I have to tell you, as my gut feeling as a child was that time isn't real. And I, and you're talking about anecdotal reports because I use
Right.
a lot of this, and we had this discussion via email. You're wondering if I speculate too much on the show, and I do.
Well, speculation's fine. I think we all want to know what
Yeah.
why things happen to us and why the universe seems to be the way it is.
Right. Well,
It's a natural question.
so some alien abductee said that the aliens told him that he said they asked him, is time real? And they said, well, time is real, but not in the way you humans think it is. And like, well,
Yeah.
what's that?
Well, regardless of an alien who said it, basically Einstein said something very similar. So if you'll allow me, I can take you
Oh, of
through
course.
why time actually may be an illusion. And
Yeah,
this is all scientifically.
you're the guest here. I'm talking much. Go ahead.
So if you think back to Einstein, and I'm sure your listenership is very up on Einstein and relativity and all that, Einstein taught us that time not only mutates, it changes, as we've been talking about, by varying its rate of passage depending upon our perception, but distance changes as well, scientifically, which is totally unexpected. So here's what happens. It has to do with the speed of light. Someone who travels in a spaceship toward the center of the galaxy, if they could go as fast as 99.999% of the speed of light, they would experience what's called time dilation. And that is where time is moving differently than someone, for instance, on Earth. So while that person's watch ticks off 1 year, 233 centuries have elapsed for everyone else on Earth. Now, this isn't science fiction, this is science.
Yeah.
And the round trip would involve just 2 years of travel through space, while a ridiculously long 520 centuries elapsed on Earth. But from the traveler's perspective, time passed normally. They've aged normally, but their distance to the center of the center of the galaxy has changed to a single light year, where we are nowhere near the center of the galaxy right now. And moreover, if someone could travel at the speed of light, they would find themselves literally everywhere in the universe all at once. And again, this is not science fiction. This is science.
Yeah.
A lot of science fiction movies pick up on that and speculate about it. With that said, no one is speculating about whether this science is true. Now, no one has experienced it, going that fast as the speed of light. Now, if there are aliens, they might be able to. They might be able to travel close to the speed of light and might be able to do a whole bunch of things, which explains your friend's comment, experiencing time in the way humans experience it. Because we experience it in this way, that time travels forward, things break, things age over time. Water doesn't go back in the glass once you spill it, but that may not be true for other parts of the universe.
So, I'm assuming maybe you know this. I've talked about this on the show about the fact that last summer, and I can't remember his name, a Polish physicist came up with a concept of the fact that time itself might have 3 dimensions. We live in a 4-dimensional universe, and time is one of those dimensions, but he has postulated that time itself is 3 dimensions. And supposedly, I'm no physicist, I know a little bit about it, that if that's true, it would solve a whole bunch of problems regarding the unification theory in physics.
That's right.
Have you heard about this?
I have, and it's related to what's called the block theory of time. Remember that? So the block theory of time, which is a theory of time, there are many theories of time because basically scientists do not know what time is. So they're continuing to study it. But the block theory of time suggests that the past, the present, and the future may all exist at once. And we experience one moment at a time. Think about looking down from above on the floor and seeing child's wooden blocks on the floor, where each wooden block is a moment in time. And you could move from the past to the present to the future just by picking up a block. And this was actually shown in the movie, it wasn't the movie Mars, it was, what was the movie that starred, not Matthew McConaughey, the other guy, where they taught, he came back in time, not Arrival, in any event. So this block theory of time, I think that's what the Polish scientist was related to. And the block theory of time is a respected theory of time. Yeah. Where all moments may exist simultaneously and we exist in this now moment. It would make time 3-dimensional. And as you said, it would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, and that's actually, as a child, that was actually my thing. Isn't that the time just didn't exist, that everything's happening all at once? But
yeah, there are problems with that, and it has to do with time travel. And so traveling forward in time is already real. We'll talk about that. And so time travel, really.
Let's talk about that now, because first of all, I have to ask you, it was the offhand rational thing is that you could travel backwards but not forwards.
No, that is absolutely the opposite for this reason.
So why?
Possibly for this reason. So time travel is not science fiction. In fact, science has already shown that time moves at different speeds, like we talked about before, if you were traveling at the speed of light. But today, astronauts age slightly differently than people on Earth, because of how fast they are moving, and the difference in gravity, they age slower than people on Earth. So there's 2 times going right there.
Yeah.
This means that traveling forward in time in a small way is already real. Now, is it enough for us to notice? No, but it's enough to be captured on clocks. So if you could travel, it has to do with how fast you're going, and that's back to relativity. The faster you're going, the slower time moves for you. But the bigger question, as you said, is whether we can travel backwards in time. And scientists have not found a way to do that, and it may be impossible for this reason. If you were able to go back in time, it would jeopardize your own existence. And the paradox is you go back in time and you kill your own grandfather.
Right.
It seems like a horrible thing to do, but then how would you even have been born?
Right.
So what fixes that as a theory, and these are all scientific theories, and that is, well, there may be a rule in the universe where you can't go back in time and change something that would change the present moment. That seems a little convenient, as a rule in science. But backwards time travel remains unproven, but it's still being explored in physics.
Well, there's also the parallel universe theory, and that is you go back and you kill your grandfather, and then you come back to the present, but it's not the same universe as that you're in.
Well, that's an interesting theory. Another interesting theory of time is the multiverse theory. So every moment, and we don't know how long a moment is. Let's say the moment is the smallest unit of time we could possibly think about. Every moment, a new universe is born.
Yeah.
And so you get an infinite number of universes every moment, and they branch out. So the branch theory of the multiverse theory, and imagine you could go between universes, where you would go back and kill your own grandfather in one universe, and then you could go back to the universe where you were. Now, these are theories. Again, this hasn't been proven. One day it may be, but it does explain what you've suggested, and that is a way that we could explain away the grandfather paradox and allow people to move backward in time.
There's also, and this isn't a theory, I guess, either. And I think this guy isn't from Penn State. I can't, forgive me. I should have looked this up.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard about this. So he has come up with this idea that he thinks he could create a device like a capsule or something, where as long as the electricity is flowing through it for whatever amount of time that is, you could step in this thing and go backwards and forwards within that time frame. In other words, like if you could keep this thing running continuously for 100 years, at any point in that 100-year, you would be able to enter and leave this thing and I don't know why that does kind of make sense to me. I don't know why it does, but and he's actually trying to raise money to do this.
Well, and honestly, if we could solve that paradox, it would be really great. I would wonder. I have not read about that, and the issue would be what's going on in the capsule in order to change time. Here's what we know changes time: relativity and gravity. The faster you go, the slower time passes, and the greater the gravity, the slower time passes until it stops. But you would never survive going into a black hole, because you would be smashed to pieces even before you got there. You'd be on the event horizon, and we really haven't figured out how to go as fast as the speed of light. Now, have you seen the new movie, the Hail Mary Project? No. Hail Mary?
I've not seen it.
Yeah, it talks about these theories of time. So if people are interested in time, it's really great. It actually shows relativity. It shows time dilation, really done very well. Because the character, I won't be a spoiler and tell you what happens, but they get launched into outer space against their will, and they're traveling at near the speed of light. So they are going enormously fast, and time does not pass for this character in order to go save the Earth. Meanwhile, time is passing normally on Earth, and as I did the calculation for you, with the time dilation of 22,000, so a lot of time is passing on Earth, while this person is having just days or weeks or even months passing for them.
Right. I picked something out of your biography that really fascinates me, and it was like an offhand mention about the fact that you've studied at the Monroe Institute, right?
I did. I wanted to know more about this phenomenon of people report out-of-body travel. And in my book, I interview people. I talk about what does it feel like if that actually happens. And a lot of out-of-body travel, the reason I did, they experience time going differently. And so, I have to say that what it shows is out-of-body experiences are not actually considered time travel, for instance.
Right.
But they do show that our sense of time changes with our state of consciousness, which I thought was so fascinating. Back to your accident, in my experience of being able to slow down time. So people who've had these experiences often report time feels very differently. It can slow down or stop or not be or be absent completely. And science doesn't understand this experience, but they suggest that it's closely related to how our minds work. And that's what fascinated me. I think this is all about our minds.
Well,
It's
now
all about, is there an objective universe out there, or are we somehow part of creating it, and at the same time creating how we experience time?
that's the information theory of the universe, that actually the universe is actually created by information. So therefore consciousness partly or solely creates the universe. That's a
Yeah, and
there.
there's another. I just read a book that was written in 2009 that your listeners might be interested in. It's called Biocentrism by a very esteemed medical doctor who's what's his name? Lanza, Robert Lanza. I'm looking at it on my desk. And so he makes a case that really the only thing to be perceived out there is our own perceptions.
Hmm.
So that, time is not an actual reality, but it's a mere subject of experience. It's a fiction. It's a social convention, right? It in reality, it's only a way to mutually agree upon conveniences in everyday life, so you can meet someone.
Right. So
You
he's
know,
basically saying it's a human construct,
yeah,
basically.
as is the whole universe. And so
Yeah.
this biocentrism, it's a piece of evidence that calls into serious doubt whether the external universe even actually exists.
Right. I want to get back to the thing about the Monroe Institute because I
Yeah.
want to explain to the viewers that Robert Monroe came up, he was an audio engineer, and he came up with this, not a theory, but this method of basically getting people to alter their mental states through sound.
Mhm.
And so did you experience this? Did so
You
I've
know,
never been there, but my impression is you put on headphones and you go through different various steps. And at some point, most people basically experience some out of, did you
out of body?
experience?
I did
Yeah.
not while I was there. But, I would say, because I've studied dreams as well, and I cover dreams in my book, and that is, dreams of flying may well be related to out of body experiences. So have you ever had a flying dream?
Well, I have a lot of dreams and they're very, very elaborate. I've been thinking about this recently.
Uh,
If the purpose of dreams is to clear your head out, basically of extraneous information, how come I create such incredible worlds that I've never seen before? That would seem to me to take a lot of work from my brain. And it's the opposite of what dreaming should be. I have
well,
this thing. I'm constantly. I'm in these places I've never been. It's like, and they're extremely elaborate. I mean, they're
yeah.
basically real to me. And I'm thinking, well, why am I here if the idea of this dream is to actually, clear out my daily thoughts,
Are you ever lucid in your dreams, meaning you know that you're dreaming?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's called lucid dreaming. And so
right,
that's a higher order of dreaming. I have had that experience many times. And so just for listeners, dreams again, I think dreams can be a couple of things. One, they can be ways to work out issues during the day. So think of, you have trouble at work and you dream as your boss as a rhinoceros who's chasing you around trying to run you over. So you're
right,
working something out. A second type of dream may be aspirational, right? You're dreaming something that hasn't happened yet or in a wonderful, fantastic setting, and you feel good about yourself in some ways. And I think there may be something called prophetic dreams, dreams which are really different. You hear about these in ancient spiritual texts. I know they're spiritual texts, but you do see them covered in places like the Bible and many, many other cultures of people reporting these dreams, which are somehow prophetic, which are somehow time related.
well,
I'm not.
I have had those. I have
Mhm.
had dreams where I've dreamt somebody has said something and I've had a conversation, and then literally the next day that takes place, and I literally know what the next person is going to say. It's not deja vu. I mean, I understand that
More
deja
than
vu,
deja vu,
it's more
right?
than deja vu. It's a specific
Yeah.
thing. I actually know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So that with the three types of dreams, a lucid dream is a higher order of dreaming. And what Monroe Institute teaches you is how to dream lucidly, meaning there's something you're in a dream and they get you in a dream state. And you spend time there, you sleep there for a week. I was there for a week. And you're in total darkness, and there's music involved, brain entrainment they call it, which are frequencies and sounds. and you would call it music, but it's not really musical in a sense.
Uh-huh.
And it's putting you into a brain state. And in that brain state, they have taught you how to become lucid in your dream. Lucid in your dream is you are in your dream and you know that you're dreaming. The minute that you know that you're dreaming while dreaming, that is a lucid dream. And you have a lot of ability to do things if you get lucid in your dreams. You can control your dream. You can move your dream around. You can, if something bad has happened to you, you can stop it in real time. And then they pause it with people that they work with. And I know they've had a lot of success. And I did not meet Robert Monroe. He was dead before I went there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that I did meet there have had this experience where they felt like that their consciousness traveled outside their bodies and they could report things outside their bodies. I know that a lot of scientific research has been done along these lines. The problem is it's all anecdotal. You can't see inside someone's brain as they're dreaming you can see that they are dreaming, but we really don't have the technology to see what they're dreaming.
But when you're talking about near-death experiences, though, at this point, it appears that millions of people have had them. It's very, and so, my thing is, okay, it's all anecdotal, but you can't discount that many anecdotal instances. I mean, I go by the 95% rule. 95% of it's probably crap, but if the 5% that's left, you have so many instances that it's hard to discount it.
Well, again, back to this theory, biocentrism. If ultimate reality is something that is that there is no objective reality, and it's all what is being perceived are our own perceptions, then of course people would have those experiences, and it's completely normal. I think that science wants to show things that are objectively true, and the problem is when metaphysics meets physics, it becomes very difficult. And so because something in science is true until it's been disproven, that's basically a tenet of science. With that said, they're unable to positively prove some of these things because they're related to human experience, which is then reported by the human. And I think we just haven't figured out how to solve that paradox.
But it does seem, I mean, would you agree that more and more scientists or even the public is starting to, the creeping in of metaphysics seems to be more and more accepted as time going on? Do you agree with that or not?
Well, I think that they're studying consciousness. In fact, there are theories that talk about the brain as quantum. The brain has quantum effects. The way the brain works, for how quickly it works, is very remarkable to a lot of scientists.
Yeah.
And they have likened it to the way quantum mechanics works. And so if the brain is quantum, there's something called quantum effects. A quantum effect is entanglement, where two things are happening differently in other sides of the universe, but they're related. What happens to one happens to the other, right? There are all kinds of other aspects of this. There's the observer effect, where what you look at changes because you've observed it. Yeah. So if this is how the brain actually works, and they're scientists studying that, then that really changes things. And I think that a lot of people are studying how the brain works, and they want to understand consciousness.
One of the problems, I think, maybe for the average person or the public, is that quantum physics basically makes no rational sense in terms of, it's like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and you just touched on most of it. That seems counterintuitive. I mean, what do you mean? Like, you can separate atoms by a billion miles, and they react.
I know all of these things. Well, I cover that in my book, All the Time in the World, and quite extensively. And I've been told it is an excellent fundamental explanation of what's happening from a regular person.
Yes. I'm going to buy and read your book. You don't even have to send me a copy.
Oh, terrific.
I'll buy it because I want it on my Kindle. And I like I said, I actually regret not doing this ahead of time. I should have done it. Now, I do want to get to your current book, Permanence, which just came out like last month.
It did, yes.
About 6 weeks ago anyway. Because you said something in here that I want to know. I wanted to know if this actually applied to was you got from your you talk about not feedback but feed forward.
I know, yes.
And I was wondering if that kind of related to your first book.
It does. So that All the Time in the World is about metaphysics. And this, it's science-backed theories for personal change using metaphysics. Let's talk about that in physics, which is quantum mechanics. The second book is more practical. It's a practical guide for how to change yourself, and in some sense, using time. And it's using the daily repetition of small things in order to change your behavior permanently. And that's where the title came from. And so feed forward is very interesting. Imagine that you're at work, or you have your family or something that you're doing, and things may not be going exactly the way you would like them to go. You might ask them for feedback, and everybody cringes at feedback. Feedback is never good. Feedback is a criticism. Imagine you ask them this instead: how can I be better the next time? First of all, the questioner is extremely excited that you asked their opinion. Number one, they probably didn't want to give you feedback either. Second, you're getting valuable information about how to be. And so next time, instead of asking for feedback, ask for feed forward. It's a way to use time in order to change the way you show up in the world for the better.
Yeah, that's really amazing, because you're absolutely right. No, but I don't know about you, but I've been working in the public eye for a long time, and it's like I'm so used to criticism at this point. It's like all people do is dump. And would you say that in this age of social media, it's gotten, I don't know if the word worse should be used, but it's like criticism is just relentless everywhere.
Yeah, I sort of removed negative adjectives from the way I speak and think. I think it might be important to think about it. I think about it as a lot. What we're getting is a lot. We're getting a lot of information. We're getting all kinds of things we wouldn't have normally seen in the past. Someone who may have been, not that nice a person when we were in grade school and before social media, you probably wouldn't hear from them, right? Because they didn't have a big megaphone. But in social media, things that are extreme get amplified. And so we see more of that. And that's why, the second book, Permanence, is focused on the positive. How can we positively change ourselves in order to show up in the world the way that we want to be? And everybody wants to change something about themselves.
I'm not bullshitting you when I say this. I really admire you. People talk about doing positive things, but you've actually done them here. And writing a book is not easy. I mean, people constantly ask me if I'm going to do it now.
Right.
It's a year of your life. You're not guaranteed.
Yeah.
You probably won't make a lot of money. It's like it's like what's your day-to-day life like? What do you? I mean, so.
Well,
You're the managing director of Conversus.
Yep, I do consulting for companies which are looking to affect change. It's
Yeah.
basically what both books are about. And so less metaphysics probably than more regular business. And so companies are encountering problems all the time. Look at the economy today, and they're having to navigate things like higher prices and things that are happening which may not be great for their business. They, like anybody else, they want to know why things happen to them and how they can be better in the future. And that sounds exactly like my second book. And when you think about it, most authors write books because they want to answer a question for themselves.
Right.
I wrote the first book, All the Time in the World, because I wanted to understand this thing about time, why I seem to have the superpower. And now I have a really good idea. And the second book was, how can I change myself for the better, given the changing landscape of our lives and social media and everything else? And the truth is, as you said, like micro timing in music, how about micro habits? How about getting a really small number of habits which can change the way you are and doing them every day because you remember to do them every day? It actually is provable, and I did do it in doing research, that it's true. It really does change people. It changes how they show up in the world.
Well, I don't know how much you've addressed this in these two books, but repetition seems to be a big deal in life. I mean, in music, repetition is like it's like God. That's right.
That's right. And you slow things down.
Right.
And repeat them so that you know them. Absolutely. So why not? We go again back to social media. So much is coming at us. Why don't we do something that's repetitive, small, and we know that's positive? And so here's an example of a question someone might ask. It seems so innocent and simple. Did I do my best today to be happy? Well, you know what? That's a really profound question.
It actually is. You're right.
Two things about that question that are important. It didn't ask you, was I happy? It asked you at the end of your day, did I do my best to be happy? And here's why that's important. So imagine you have the best of intentions and you get up and you're driving your car and you have as a question, was I happy today? And you're going to answer it at the end of the day. But a cat runs across the road and you swerve out of the way because you would never hit the cat, and you run into a garbage can and you take out the front end of your car and it's only 8:30 in the morning. So life happened. But then you go to work and you get a promotion and your boyfriend asks you to marry him and you're moving into a new house and all, you win the lottery. So were you happy? Well, you still had the car and you were unhappy. But through all of that, can you answer the question in the affirmative? Did I do my best to be happy? The answer is yes. It changes it from outcomes to effort. And I think that that's so important. Repetition and effort every day.
I do too. And that's a fantastic example. By the way, it's terrible. I hit the cat and killed it. And that was bad.
Oh,
I'm not happy about that, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm a big cat person. So
Yeah. I would be very broken up about that.
yeah, but whatever. Enough about me. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you. This has been fantastic. Let's put your book on the screen here again. You can get this where all books are sold. I got this from Amazon. This is a picture from there. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
so what's in your future here? Future being
well, I never thought of myself as an author, but I still have questions about life, and things that I want to answer. And so I'm doing that. I have a nonprofit called Police to Peace, which works with policing agencies around the country in order to bring police and communities together, which I think we could use more of. As the world becomes sort of more complicated, that relationship I find really important and valuable. And also I talk about this in my book. If you're willing to talk about doing good in the world, think about actually doing it, picking yourself up and doing something about it. And I did that with Police to Peace. We formed a nonprofit and we deliver programs around the country.
Well, I hate to say it, dump on a fellow man, but not enough people do that. So
well, maybe they'll be inspired to do so.
Maybe. And yeah, I hope you keep writing, because I don't even know if I said this during the interview or before we started. You wrote these books in the reverse order, as far as I'm concerned. For somebody
both of them are I wanted to understand something about myself. First was I wanted to understand time, because that was fundamental. And the second was I wanted to understand how I could become a better person using using research-backed theories. And there it is.
Thank you. That's all I'm going to say here. Just saying thank you for being you. Yeah, don't stop writing.
And thank you for all you do. You're elevating these types of issues so that people can think about them in an intelligent, thoughtful way. And science is useful. People are exploring all kinds of things at the same time. So do your research. It's out there.
People ask me often, Lisa, why do I do this 4 nights a week? Why not just 1 or 2? Do you know how many interesting people there are to talk to? It's unbelievable.
There are quite a bit.
And in
one area.
And most of them aren't famous either. It's like the famous people are largely bores. I don't have to tell you that. I'm sure you've met plenty. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of cool things, and you're one of them. So I appreciate
you. I appreciate you you elevating some of the topics, especially time. Time is fascinating, and scientists have no idea what time is. I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, we barely know what's going on. So it's like, that's like my late brother-in-law said we're 2 weeks out of the trees, and he's absolutely right.
If the 2 weeks even exists.
Yeah, you brought it full circle. That's
time jokes are endless.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Bye.
Our thanks to Lisa Broderick there. How many corporate CEOs write a book on that, on time? Well, not time management, on actually the physical nature of time. It's really pretty fascinating. I talk a lot about that stuff on the show, and I kind of almost don't believe how well that fit into kind of the agenda around here. So apparently I'm not the only one thinking about it. This is Footnotes for Wednesday, April 8th. And our first, it's a little bit of a stretch, but bear with me here. Our first story kind of ties into what Lisa was talking about. So, first of all, I have to make a political statement here. People who think that we're losing the war in Iran, they're nuts. This is crazy. David Strom talked about this last week on this program about the fact that the amount of propaganda that's going on here is absolutely unbelievable. The mainstream press is reporting the exact opposite of what's happening. That's really, really disgusting. You're not getting any straight news. The fact of the matter is we are completely all over Iran. Now, today, they announced the fact that they're going to try the 2-week ceasefire. Although it looks, as of this afternoon, 5 o'clock or so, it looks like it's already falling apart. And I think I've said this before, and I said this to David too. I think this has been part of the plan all along. I think they know that the Iranians, just by habit, the Iranians can't do any of this stuff, if not out of stupidity. So I think they're actually doing it to buy time, military time. But at any rate, that's not my point here. My point here is they just rescued 2 pilots that crashed an airplane in Iranian territory. And of course, you probably know about that. We've been fighting these people now for, what is it, a month? And I think we've lost 7 people, if I'm right. This is not normal warfare anymore. We are so far technologically advanced. And, that was the one thing of that for quite a few years, people were saying, especially like, okay, so we've captured these crashed ET spacecraft and stuff like that. Well, where's the technological benefit? How come we never see anything new? And finally, we are getting back to getting Maduro out of Venezuela, and I bring that up because basically the last 6-8 months of military action in the entire world has been just short. It's been miraculous. So we grabbed Maduro. He was surrounded by about 400 Cuban security people, right? We sent in 20 guys, 20 to 400, and killed almost all of them. 20 guys killed 400 guys. And people who survived that said it was almost like aliens had landed from another planet, because supposedly the American military has a weapon that will paralyze. Whether they do it by sound or no one's talking about this. They can paralyze people on the battlefield, so they can't move. It's easy to shoot people if they can't move. I don't know if you know that. So this is one of these things we're talking about miraculous stuff. Now another one. So these 2 pilots came down, and one of them had to go into hiding. And supposedly, the American military has a weapon called the ghost murmur. The ghost murmur has the ability of picking up a single solitary heartbeat from hundreds of miles away. And this is like crazy shit. But the reason I'm bringing this up about what Lisa was talking about is apparently there's some quantum physics technology involved in this. And I'm guessing it has to do with entanglement. That's my guess, although there's who knows. But supposedly they can do this. They can pick up the heartbeat, and a singular heartbeat of a particular person from hundreds of miles away. And that's one of the ways they found this guy. He had a beacon too on him, and I have no idea what that involves. How big the transmitter is or whatever. But supposedly they use this device called a ghost murmur to find him. We're really talking about science fiction stuff here. So we're completely, both in Venezuela and Iran, twice in Iran now, both last summer and now, we are completely dominating everything. Everything. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I have no idea how that thing works with this ghost murmur thing. Like I said, I'm guessing it might have something to do with quantum entanglement, but apparently it's a quantum physics technology that they're using there. So this is the story I put in the description for today's show today. I just think this is seriously cool. a guy named, oh my God, I'm not going to screw up his name, am I? It's oh shit. Hold on just a second. I gotta look. This is too important. Sorry, excuse me. So Bitcoin as a concept, as an invention, was released onto the world on Halloween 2008. And the guy who did it, his name is Satoshi Nakamoto. That's not his real name. And that's where the problem comes in here. Nobody knows who this guy is. This is comic book stuff. It's like you have one of the most incredible, fantastic financial inventions of the 21st century, and no one knows who this guy is. Nakamoto is acknowledged by himself as a pseudonym. He's never released his identity. And on top of that, if you know anything about the blockchain, in the Bitcoin blockchain, he has the very first transaction. Because he actually mined 1.1 million Bitcoin right at the start. Now, the way Bitcoin works is that, and people don't understand this, there's a finite number of Bitcoin, and you have to what's called mine them, and you mine them by completing mathematical equations. And the less Bitcoin that's left, the harder the mathematical equations get, which is the reasons now, because now I think 3/4 or 80% of them have been mined. You need a whole bank of computers just to mine Bitcoin. I mean, it's the power needs are amazing. But he mined the very first ones, and the very first ones, the the mathematical calculations are relatively easy. So we know for a fact, because it's actually in the blockchain. I always thought he might have cheated, but apparently he didn't. Because he would have been the very first one. He could have probably just literally stole some. From that point on, you couldn't, but at the very beginning, you probably could. I don't really know that technologically if that's possible, but at any rate, he didn't. He has 1.1 million Bitcoin as the very first Bitcoin transaction. That number of Bitcoin now is worth $70 billion. It's like, it was like shortly after that, somebody somewhere, I think it was in Santa Clara, California, paid for a pizza with 2 Bitcoin, and though like the Bitcoin involved in that transaction, no, it must have been more than that. What is now like worth $100 million or something like that. It's just like goofy crap. But at any rate, the New York Times, they think, and this is pretty credible, my guess is they're correct. They think they have figured out who Satoshi Nakamoto is, and it's a guy named Adam Back, B-A-C-K. He's 55 years old, and he's a British computer scientist, and he has been involved in cryptocurrency both before and after the creation of Bitcoin. He's been involved in this the entire time. Matter of fact, he invented a precursor to Bitcoin called Hashdash, if I'm right. I think that's what it's called. And the reason, but here's the way the Times figured this out. So I didn't know this, but the Sakamoto character has been posting, not a lot, but regularly this entire, how many years is that? It's been 17 years, 18 years. He's been posting on computer forums the entire time. So they took all of his posts on quite a few forums, both on X. He has an account on X, believe it or not, and computer forums and Reddit and all those places. They took all his posts and they compared them to millions of posts on a whole bunch of computer forums and websites and on X. And they came to what they were looking for is grammatical signatures, the use of certain words, the use of certain words together. Everyone has kind of their own writing style, and so this actually kind of codifies a writing style. Like, for example, whether you use how you like the word back end, which is actually technically 2 words, but some people put them together. Some people use hyphen. I got a thing where I send out instructions to attach enter for guests to enter our studio here for the show, and I'm constantly called by the grammar on my computer about the fact that I use the word pre-record with a hyphen, and the grammar engine on my machine says no, that's not correct. I don't care. I think it's wrong. So anyway, the Sakamoto guy, they took his posts and compared them to millions of other posts, and they said they found similarity with 500 other people, but this back guy not only came out on top, but it wasn't even close. It was his writing style matched Sakamoto's, and so supposedly when you confront back personally in person about whether he's Sakamoto, he denies it, but he gets extremely defensive. That's everyone who's known him has said that apparently he kind of tenses up and kind of gets a little angry, and he doesn't want to talk about it. So anyway, they think based on this analysis, and this is pretty analysis. They used artificial intelligence to do this. This is pretty amazing, actually. So what I said in the description, I think holds true. It's almost more fascinating how they did it than who he is. Although, like I said, this back guy has been involved in computer science and cryptocurrency even before Bitcoin came into existence, and still is. Anyway, he may be worth $70 billion. Isn't that fun? I bet you wish you were worth $70 billion. Now think as a regular caller on the show, and he started out calling in about Bitcoin because his thing, and apparently he owns quite a lot of it. He says that, and he convinced me of this, that Bitcoin is actually an antiquated technology if only because the blockchain can't grow forever. The current blockchain for Bitcoin is several terabytes of data, and you have to or somebody has to download it every time somebody makes a transaction. Maybe not you. If you have like a Bitcoin wallet at some firm, the firm does that for you, but somebody has to do it because every single Bitcoin transaction is added to the blockchain, and the blockchain now is huge. And Think has brought up the fact that it can't grow forever. I mean, at this point, it's almost unwieldy the way it is, and at some point, you literally, even a good computer won't be able to handle it anymore, and that's probably true. Um, the other thing is, I had Mark Kwan on the show last week or the week before, a couple weeks ago, I think. He's an economist, and he deals with. He wrote a very excellent book on how to manage your money, and he said that he's a big Bitcoin proponent. Of course, I've come around to this very, very late. I thought for years, 20 years, I thought this was bullshit. It wasn't until basically last year that I became convinced that maybe there's something to it. But Kwan says one of the reason there's something to it is because there's a finite amount of it. And I always thought it was the opposite. I thought, well, a real currency, there's an infinite amount of a real currency because like the United States, we have dollars, we just print more. Now that devalues the amount of the currency, but that doesn't change the fact that we can print more. We can print an endless amount. But he said it's actually one of the things actually good about it is that there's a finite amount of Bitcoin. And so he knows what he's talking about, and I don't. That's the reason I have the economists on the show. So yeah. Anyway, I found that whole story pretty interesting. Just like I said, how they came up with this. They ran it through AI, millions and millions of posts by hundreds of thousands of people, and decided they said it was pretty obvious that this Adam Back guy came up easily at the top of the list. So that's really interesting. And finally, I want to talk about this tonight because I've been talking about this forever. And we talked about this last week, actually, even a few days ago. So if you follow the whole UFO disclosure movement, there's 3 people in Congress that are really on top of this. Tim Burchett, Anna Polina Luna, and Eric Burleson. They're the 3 people that have really been pushing this. Well, in an interview with TMZ of all people, believe it or not, Burchett said he has been told, he said in a skiff, in an official environment, in an official capacity, he has been told that the American government has been in touch with aliens. He's been told this. Now, um, you can doubt him, and you can also doubt where he got the information. But I do want to point this out, and this is kind of corroborated. Haim Eshed, who's the founder of the Israeli Space Agency, and basically is considered the father of Israeli space science. And also, he's retired now, but he was an astronomer for years. I can't remember some university in Tel Aviv. He's the most highly regarded person regarding space in the entirety of Israel. He said, and he said this, I think, about 15 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago. He said that the Americans were in touch with space aliens. He said that, and he would be in a position to know. And he risked his reputation to put this out. Now, if you look him up on his Wikipedia entry discusses this, but there's caveats about the fact that he was trying to sell a book and all sorts of stuff. And here's the deal: I don't know what's going on with Wikipedia, but they will discount any story about the reality of space aliens. That's all, as far as they're concerned, it's all bullshit. I don't know if they're getting paid to discount it. You know, I speculate now that there's people in the United States press who are getting paid by some government entity, CIA or whatever, to either not report this stuff or report it incorrectly. That's my speculation. My speculation is based on prior history. I've talked about this many times. Project Nightingale from the 1970s. The CIA paid about 400 reporters in the United States, pretty much the top 400 reporters in television and newspaper media, to not report certain stories or to report them incorrectly, one or the other. And there's a guy named Philip Klass who died about 10 years ago. But up until the start of the 21st century, basically, he was the primary person the primary skeptic involved with extraterrestrial research in the U.S. You always remember, if Larry King did a show on UFOs, which he did quite a lot, there was always one person there to debunk everything everyone else was saying, and 95% of the time when Larry was on the air, that was Philip Klass. But the reason I bring that up is because I won't get into it. I've talked about it before. It's too long a story here. There's credible evidence that Klass was working for the U.S. government. So I think that might still be going on. Like I said, this is entirely speculation on my part. You know, Lisa and I were talking about the fact that, I speculate on the show. That's what I do. I don't want you to think this is fact. It's my personal opinion, but I think there's a possibility there's a whole bunch of people getting paid off by the government to say space aliens are nonsense. And I think some of those people work in Wikipedia, even though they're supposedly quote unquote volunteers. That whole thing, man, it's like Jimmy Wales, the guy who started Wikipedia, he's great. He goes to bed at night looking at the ceiling thinking, why the hell did I start that as a nonprofit? I know he does. You know, he's basically, for all practical purposes, he's never really benefited from starting Wikipedia. Yeah, he has. He goes around, he gives speeches, he charges, that sort of thing. But there's no financial benefit to him because he started as a nonprofit. Not only that, it's gotten completely out of control. So, who knows who's running that show over there? Yeah, they have people with titles and stuff like that, but the mob of volunteers, they're almost. I will just go out on a limb and say they're almost all liberal, and yeah, they think like liberal people. Like, this is their life. Their life is where writing for Wikipedia, even though they don't get paid. So at any rate, I just have to bring that up about the fact that Eshed said this stuff many years ago, and now Burchett is saying that he's saying this happened recently to him, that he was officially informed by somebody in the U.S. military that they're in touch with space aliens. Eshed said that. Oh God, I lost my train of thought. He said that it was that one of the reasons we weren't disclosing their existence is because the aliens asked us not to. And I've heard that from other people too. That's been floating around the Pentagon for some time. That the people who are talking to the aliens, so the aliens don't want us to do it. That's even maybe one of the reasons presidents haven't done it up to now. I don't know if that's going to stop Trump, but I'm going to reiterate this, even though I talked about this last week or the week before. Not only is supposedly Trump going to give a disclosure speech in July, his daughter-in-law Laura Trump says that the speech is already written. That he has told her that. Supposedly, the U.S. Mint is going to strike a. It's not that they're going to strike a commemorative coin commemorating this event, the fact that aliens have been disclosed to the world, but supposedly they've already done it. The coin already exists. They've already printed it. So we'll find out. And with that, I'm going to leave you for tonight. Now, tomorrow night, Beige Wellborn is going to be here. She's a columnist for hotair.com, and I think she's now the weekend editor. I'm not sure. We'll find that out from her. Very entertaining woman. Just a very brilliant and very, very snarky columnist. I like snark, unlike Lou Grant. The whole thing about you got spunk. I hate spunk. No, I like spunk. So anyway, she's our guest tomorrow. So she'll be here. I want to thank Lisa Broderick again. I'm going to buy her book. You should buy her book. It's terrible. I don't even remember what it's called anymore. It's like, oh man, it all blends together after a while, folks. So anyway, thanks to Lisa. That was really entertaining. And I'm going to read her book. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you tomorrow night with Beige Wellburn, everybody. Take care. Have a nice evening.